Well, again, I've said this till I'm blue in the face. The reason Putin didn't invade Ukraine or do anything when Trump was president, because he didn't have to, because Trump was taking his side over his own intelligence agency. He was attacking NATO. He was talking about disbanding NATO. He was going after our alliances. That's why all of our allies hate him. This was a man who came across last night as unhinged, as unprepared for the job, as someone who was not in command of the facts, who kept going down these crazy rabbit holes. So, this election, I think it's going to be won by there's 31% of the voters who want to know more about Harris. There's only, last survey I saw, 11% who want to know more about Trump. I can't believe there's only even 1%. I can't believe that anybody, we could probably agree, how many people are undecided on Donald Trump, right? People either love him or they hate him. But I think Kamala Harris does have room on that. And so I think she achieved what she needed to in the debate. And I think Trump had a disastrous night. I think that this debate will age worse and worse as well. But go ahead.
Well, I'm not so sure. I heard one of my Republican operative friends saying that Kamala gave us all sorts of sound bites for future ads. I think, your word you use is rose-colored glasses. One of my favorite concepts is confirmation bias. And what I see here is people have a point of view about Trump, and however he was going to behave would confirm their bias. And if they hated him, they're going to find things they hate. And if they like Kamala, they're going to find things that confirm how great a job she did. I think there's a lot of that going on here. I mean, you clearly hate Trump. I clearly don't.
No, I grew up in New York City. I don't hate him. I just think he's a terrible, terrible president. And
but look what he did with the country in 4 years. You keep saying that wasn't a good period. Ask. This is where I became a popular. Look at the average man or woman on the street and how they're feeling. And they're not feeling that great. I mean, the number of people who say they're feeling happy in the United States we used to rank in the top 4 or 5 countries in the world. Now we've fallen to 27th. And so if you look at the happiness ratio, which is an amorphous thing, who knows what that means, still, it's an indication that there are people who feel in America that a lot of things are going wrong. And Biden was president, Kamala was vice president. Where was she?
Well,
hey guys, we gotta move on because we've been talking about.
No, it is.
I want a laser.
I have too many guests on I agree with. I've got to change my format.
I want a laser here though, because there was a topic that we need Bill to talk about, and it was brought up during the debate, and that is Project 2025.
Oh, good.
Kamala Harris tried to bring it up. She tried to pin it to Trump. Trump said, "I don't know what these people are.
I don't know whose staffers wrote it."
So,
no,
Bill,
not true
since
at all.
you have been
That's
involved,
not remotely true.
Share with us share us your involvement with Project 2025 and your read on it now, because it seems like Trump wants it to die. Kamala wants to revive it. Tell us, Bill, what is the true story of Project 2025?
The truth is a lot more complicated and interesting, I think. I was involved in 2016 in the Trump transition, and we passed a law, I don't know when it passed, 25, 30 years ago. The presidents needed to be better prepared when they started the job. And so they funded something called transition, and they set up some offices, and people would go in and develop plans for each of the agencies. And I got involved in July of 2016 before the election, and it was pretty funny because the Hillary people and the Trump people were in the same office building, and we rode up the elevator back and forth, and they'd look at us like we were the biggest losers on the planet, and why were we even bothering? Well, guess what? I recruited about 100 people to work. I was responsible for all the financial agencies, Commerce, Treasury, U.S. Trade Rep, all so on and so forth, and I got a lot of smart people to write plans for each of those agencies. And then after Trump won, well, the body language in the elevator was certainly different, but it got to be real. But that's when I began to realize Donald Trump did not like plans being written for him. And we were toiling away in Washington, and Donald was up in Trump Tower. He wanted nothing to do with the people down in Washington scribbling plans because he wanted to make up his own plans when he got on the job. Now, you could argue, and I would argue, should have paid more attention to what was being done. But he had a disdain for the reports that were written at the time. And this is 2016 into 2017. So last year, Steve Moore, the economist, is a friend of mine, and he was asked by Heritage to write the Treasury plan. And he called me up and he said, Bill, you've already written a Treasury plan. Why don't you help me out here? Because we both agreed that while Heritage was launching a 2025, it was probably something Donald Trump was not going to pay much attention to, because he thought plans like this, writing a plan like this before he get elected, whether he's right or not, is bad luck. And so Heritage proceeded with its Project 2025. We ended up with a big, thick book, 975 pages. I don't know how many authors we had, 150, 200, 300, it doesn't really matter. But it was a piece of work that you might expect from a lot of political operatives and policy wonks, and people had their favorite hobby horse in there. It wasn't heavily edited, and Heritage published it, and all of a sudden that was latched onto as Donald Trump's guidebook. Well, at first it was conceived, Heritage at first was a DeSantis proponent, and they thought they were writing a plan for DeSantis. And so only after DeSantis dropped out did this so-called document become what Trump was supposed to be thinking. He had nothing to do with it. Now, yes, there were some people who wrote pieces of the book, including me, who worked for him during transition or during the administration. But we never thought that this was going to be exactly what Trump was going to do. It was more just some things to think about when he entered office. So this has been totally mischaracterized on purpose.
Well, you acknowledge that he embraced it a lot more until it became not so fashionable.
No, I didn't acknowledge that he embraced it. Okay. I did not acknowledge
it. More. He was open to it, and now he's totally disavowed it. So he has had a change on it. That is true.
It has every conservative policy idea you can think of, and you're going to choose some of those if you're president, and you're going to leave the rest of them on the cutting room floor.
I think the thing that this debate will ask people is, is this man still does he have the mindset and the discipline? And again, these are his own advisors can't make him prepare. He doesn't even read his presidential brief. Things I've told Carrie, whatever you think of him, he's clearly mentally or intellectually, morally, and temperamentally unqualified for the job. And that came through a lot last night.
I
grew up in New York, so you can't hate Donald Trump. You're entertained by him. You don't have a lot of respect for him. He was a too-big grifter, but he was our too-big grifter. He was entertaining. And look, when he first got elected, I thought Hillary would win, but I wasn't surprised that he won. It was Michael Moore, actually, of all the people, that far left filmmaker that got me believing how Trump could win, because he lives in Michigan and Wisconsin. He saw how Hillary was neglecting those states and how angry people were there. But he was anyone who wins is our president. I want him to succeed, but I don't think he has.
But Trump's a man of action.
Qualified.
Trump's a man of action, and he's being judged by policy wonks and intellectuals and people who sit and, sip tea on Park Avenue, and that's not who he is. He's a man of action.
Let me ask you a question. Do you honestly think these tariffs are a good idea? I mean, as a conservative,
no, I think strategically. I'm a friend with Bob Lighthizer. Okay. He's been on my show, and I know how they were using the tariffs to get Trump's attention, and Trump is not the best spokesman for his own policies. It was far more nuanced and interesting than the way he describes it. And I don't think when I run for president, I'm not going to ask Donald to be my spokesman. Can we stipulate that?
Listen to what you're saying.
He does connect with people. They know what he's saying.
You're saying, let's use bad policy to get his attention. If someone's the president of the United States, they should be so attentive.
Tariffs on China in part are a good policy. And if you look at China not as just another economic competitor, but a military competitor and a country that has designs on the rest of the Pacific Basin and maybe the world, you got to treat them differently. And we were getting clobbered in some critical industries, and so we had to step in and do something about it, and we did. And it says something about their effectiveness that Biden kept all those in place.
Well, he didn't keep all of them. He kept a lot of them, but you have to remember that this is someone in Trump, someone who ran cover for Xi during COVID. He called the Uyghur concentration camps in China a great idea. So again, it's just another dictator that he's
Carrie,
this
you
is
got to
true.
jump in here.
This is true.
No,
He didn't say
Yes,
that.
he
Dave, that's
did.
so not true.
Look it up.
Dave,
Look it up.
Dave,
He called-
Dave, I'm going to mute your mic.
Yes.
Dave, on the Uyghurs, literally, they designated the Uyghurs as the suppression, as a violation of human rights. It was the first time that had happened, and that angered China. They hated it, but that was Donald Trump, his administration, that did that. That took a lot of courage for them to do that, to designate that in a very specific way as a human rights violation, and then just the overall sense that. Again, the world is on fire under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Whether it's, I thought Trump did a strong job on pointing out the Iran hypocrisy that Kamala Harris says she's going to bring stability to the Middle East when it's their policies that have bankrolled through giving money and removing sanctions against Iran, is funding terrorism to murder Jews, to bankroll Hezbollah in Lebanon, to bankroll the Houthis in Yemen. And where's the responsibility? And the fact that he said, you fired nobody for this. You fired nobody over the murder of 13 U.S. service people. That's what I thought that was a very strong point from Trump during the debate when he said, the reason why people who used to work for me are angry is because I fired them because they're incompetent. Whereas, no, you don't fire anybody. Who did she fire for 20% inflation? Who? There's no accountability.
First of all, inflation was 9%. It wasn't 20%. I mean, the worst it was in 1 year. But
no, cumulatively, in the 3.5 years, it's 20% cumulative overall for the CPI.
Now,